Believe it or not, there is a right way and a wrong way to declutter, just like there's a right way and a wrong way to load the dishwasher. Right, Mom? These simple steps will help you to work through this process quickly and to declutter a whole lot at once. Step 1, choose one area to work through. If you're decluttering your dresser, let's start one drawer at a time. Step 2, pick up the item. And step 3, decide quickly. If it's not a whole body heck yes, then it is a no. Now, I do have some questions if you feel like there maybe is a little bit more nuance needed. If we've never met before, my name is Robyn and I help overwhelm people to declutter all of that excess from their lives, especially people who just are having trouble getting over that hump. I'm a mom, a wife, and a nurse, and I have seen it. So I have this system written out for you. If you go to minimalisthome.ca/method, you can download it and then follow along. But make sure you come back to this video to watch it because I explain a lot of nuances in it. So go get it and then come right back. Of course, that might sound much easier than done because we haven't gotten to some very important steps. First, you need to know where you are starting. Where am I? Say you're looking for a buried treasure. It's pretty important to know where you're starting, what supplies you need, and even what state you are in. I love the idea of taking a few photos. Now, before you panic and leave this video, I am begging you, consider taking some photos. It's like a photo in your bikini before starting a workout routine. It's not exactly fun, but you will be thrilled when you compare the before and the after and you see all of the amazing different ways that your home feels and looks. You can also write down in your journal or elsewhere how your home is currently making you feel. What sensations are arriving in your body when you start looking around and thinking of the clutter? Now, for me, I often will feel stress in my gut, and even just the thought of clutter now, it just takes me back to that feeling I used to have when my house was like super cluttered and I was coming back from the emergency department after working with people all day and I was like, oh my gosh, my house is cluttered and I feel terrible. I feel a lot better now. Anyway, write it down. I also love the idea of writing down a clear goal of what you want your space to look like and to feel like when you are finished. And don't hold back on the details. This is helpful because if you start to declutter your living room and you start getting completely overwhelmed, you can just revisit those photos to see how far you've come, which is always so helpful. And your journal, you can look at that to remember why you're doing this and that you want to live your best life and you want to feel 1,000 times better, you know, for motivation. So where are we going to start? Back to the treasure hunt. Where you start is a pretty big deal, obviously. If you don't start at the right spot on the map, you risk wasting a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of time, and that is going to discourage you. And it is the exact same with decluttering. Like exactly the same. A, you will feel amazing when you're finished. Choose a spot that is gonna feel just like so good when you're done. And B, a spot that you can do quickly, maybe in one session, like 15 or 30 minutes. Maybe a guest room with a closet that's full. Tackle that closet and then walk by it and give yourself a high five. I am particularly fond of the junk drawer, and yes, mine needs to be done. That's the thing about the junk drawer, you can do it every now and then. But it's a great spot because you can walk by and just open it up and enjoy it any old time. Areas that I suggest postponing are garages, storage areas, and kitchens. Now, some people, just a little caveat, some people, they're like, no, I want to start in my kitchen. And this isn't a terrible idea. I had a client once who started in her kitchen, and it was because she knew there were just so many things she could think of that she didn't need anymore. There's also a lot less, on average, sentimental things in the kitchen that are hard for people to clutter. But garages, storage units, and usually kitchens can be overwhelming. And it honestly is just like starting your treasure hunt, looking at the giant island instead of having your map. And you might be discouraged and you might feel like you just don't want to continue creating this amazing home. And maybe that's where you commonly get stuck. And I'll get into that in a minute. How about the end of your kitchen countertop or other flat surfaces? I bet you could clear one of those off in as little as 15 minutes. maybe even less. And if paperwork doesn't stress you out, perhaps start in your home office. Whatever you do, don't spend too much time making a final decision, just get started. So how do you prep for success? You need the right supplies, Linda. And if you're looking for a buried treasure, you're going to need water. You're going to need fuel, and you're going to need a shovel. What? I'm Canadian. Of course it's a snow shovel. I like to use the 4-box method. Grab yourself 4 vessels of some sort. Often I use laundry basket, garbage bags, bowls, other like shopping bags, of course, boxes, whatever can hold things. Now the 4-box method is great because it's a great way to organize items using the following categories. So I use 1, donate, sell. Now my suggestion when you sell something is to price it nice and low, like 20% of its original price, so it goes quickly, because selling things can get old super fast. And not to sell anything less than $30. That's usually my tactic. It's usually not worth the hassle to sell things, so I often donate things. So I usually just put donate, sell in one basket. And of course, I like to donate things that are not in terrible condition, nothing broken, of course. And then of course, there's garbage. So you could just have straight up a garbage bag, depending on what I just often use a basket. Garbage, which is things that are clearly garbage. Sometimes things that are yucky, where you would probably use a bag, or broken and they cannot be repaired. Garbage for me usually is the smallest section. I also like to have a recycling basket. Check with your local municipality or recycling centers for what is a good idea of what can be recycled and what can go where. Perhaps you can find a place for textiles and electronics, which is super helpful because you might have a box of cables like I used to. Now for me in my area, I always get people saying like, you can recycle textiles. In my area, there aren't any, so I keep looking. If you know of any on Vancouver Island, let me know. The Bring It Home box. This is my favorite box. Now, I actually came up with this one not too long ago. I don't even think I really used it that much when I did the first big declutter of my house, but whenever I'm decluttering now, I have a Bring It Home box because you know the right place where things go when you're decluttering. And quite often our brain is like, oh good, finally I can relax. I know where this goes. I'm gonna go and take it there. Don't do that, don't leave. Just throw it in the Bring It Home box and bring it there at the end of your decluttering session. So that brings us to quick decisions. Let's go through the decluttering process. Step 1, decide on an area. The closet. Step 2, pick up a piece of clothing. And step 3, decide right away if you are keeping that clothing. If we hum and haw, then there's a pretty good chance we're going to start looking for excuses to keep that item. And that is no bueno. Just decide and let her go. Oh, this reminds me of my neighbor's graduation. How could I ever part with it? The following questions can help you to streamline this process to declutter your entire house. Number 1, do you like the item? This is a great question for artwork and ornaments, whatever. If you have a bunch of ornaments that were gifts by amazing, well-meaning family members who you love very much, but you're not necessarily in love with that artwork, or you bought it in the past and you're just not that into it, consider letting some or all of it go. The second question, do you need the item? You know what I need? I need a bunch of my kitchen knives. Okay, I could live without them, but I don't necessarily want to. They seriously save me an absolute ton of time, and they help me chop my veggies and my salads so I can stay healthful. If I didn't have these knives, I'd be like ripping vegetables and stuff in half. So I would say I like kind of need them, like not to stay alive, but kind of to stay alive. You know what I mean? Putting this back. Putting all the knives back, trying not to cut myself. Do you use the item? Like, do you wear it if it's clothes? Do you use it if it's an item you have? Do you enjoy it? Do you have multiples of the same item? I had a client once who had like 15 spatulas. She actually had 15 spatulas. And then she was like, I don't actually need all of these spatulas. Her mom used to give her one every Christmas. And then she was like, I don't need all of these spatulas. So she decluttered, I think like of the 15, she decluttered like 13. And the thing is, like, for me, I have 2 or 3 spatulas, like the scraping kind for like when you're baking, and then I have the flipping kind. Like I have a couple because I'm too busy to be only having one, but at the same time, I need to have not a lot. Anyway, the other thing is, this is also great for clothes because sometimes we have way too many things and we never wear. Another question is this a unitasker? These are things that can only do one thing. And it is great for decluttering things in the kitchen or the craft room. Like, do you need the avocado scoop? Maybe you do. I have said this before and people have gone nuts. They're like, I use my avocado scoop. And I'm like, if you use it, good. That's the whole point. If you use it or if it saves you a ton of time, great. Maybe you have arthritis. I don't know. Some unitaskers make sense. You can rip my toaster out of my cold, dead hands. Now, I love Swedish death cleaning questions too. Now, you might be like, what the heck is Swedish death cleaning? Swedish death cleaning was described by Margareta Magnusson in her book, also called Döstädning. Well, I think the Swedish version is Döstädning. Anyway, she explains that it's a good idea to start getting rid of some stuff so we're not burdening people after, you know, like the final event in our life happens. So these questions are great when you have emotional clutter. The first one I love is, does anybody want this when I die? I don't want to be morbid, but you know it's going to happen to all of us. And my grandma, God love her, is hanging on to some of her Christmas stuff. But when she's gone, a few of us are going to take some of those decorations. She's not keeping a whack of things that she hopes people will want. If someone is going to want things when you pass away, put them in a box and save them. But if you're not using them now, we let them go. A word of caution. It can be very easy to say, oh, I'll just save this for my son, daughter, brother, neighbor, grandkids, priest, whatever. This is totally fine, but don't get caught in the trap of keeping things for other people. They might not want them. Plus, it can be a burden for you. Another great question is, do I want to burden anybody with these decisions after I'm gone? Now, if you have kids or grandkids, do you want them to be going through piles or boxes and lots of clutter? Or worse, do you want your family members seeing some of the stuff that you have in those boxes? Or strangers? I don't know what's worse. But anyway, consider that. The other question is, do I want to live with this for the rest of my life? Now, your life is worth a lot and your environment matters. So do you want to surround yourself with a bunch of things just because you can't decide? No. No, you don't. Let go of what is not serving you. Just pass it on. And remember, if things are going to go to the landfill, they may as well go there now instead of after you're gone. Can't decide? No problem. If you're struggling to decide, you can employ a little tactic I like to call the penalty box. So I'm Canadian, so naturally a penalty box makes sense since hockey is such a big deal here in Canada. Not in my house, thank God, but definitely to my countrymen and countrywomen, and I've just been surrounded by it forever. And if you just can't decide, put them in the penalty box for a specific period of time, like 1 month, which is good for something that you find and you think, oh, I have one of these, that's awesome. Or 3 months, maybe for something like clothes, something you've been intending to wear. Even 6 months for clothes that maybe aren't necessarily in the right season. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm in Canada, so our seasons go from like very cold to like blisteringly hot, so I can't necessarily wear this sweater all year, even though I do. If you want to be extra bold, go ahead and tape up that box when you put the items in. And if you don't go looking for those items in that box, you can just blindly donate it without untaping the box. Bold. And go through your house room by room. Every time you finish a room, and make sure you finish that room before you move on, I want you to high-five yourself and then choose a slightly harder room and then walk through your house methodically to decide this. You can do this. Just remember, you can do this. Just keep going and don't give up. Sort it now. Put all of the stuff where it goes. Put the garbage in the garbage, the recycling in the recycling, bring the home stuff home. You know the deal with donating and selling. I'm not going to get into that again, but just do it ASAP. Now, if you're not careful, you can end up with piles of things that you mean to donate, and this can stick around for years. Just like after you're done finding your buried treasure and you're busy enjoying your rum and all of your gold and you're eating and relaxing, it's similar to decluttering. but it's a little bit different. You actually need to get rid of the stuff that you've gone through. I love the idea of immediately taking things to the donation center. Now that is not always practical. Maybe there's a car issue. Maybe you're just like super busy. Like for me, I can't necessarily just go like drive 20 minutes and drop something off. So I like to mark a designated day on my calendar for when to drop things off. And if you're like me and you have ADHD, maybe put in a phone reminder for good keeping. One of the problems people run into when they are decluttering is a lot of mindset stuff. Like they're just like, oh, I just keep getting stuck for this reason or that reason. And maybe it's emotional, or maybe it has to do with stuff from your parents or whatever. I made a video all about this. There are a bunch of things that I tackle. It will be so helpful. It will get you from these great tips to complete, because you are going to have the method and the mindset. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.